Over to my colleague and program manager for Business Diversity Program, Marco Suarez, for a brief announcement.
Thank you, Shiva. Hola y buenas tardes y gracias por estar con nosotros en la caminata virtual de pasillo del distrito número 3 con el supervisor Corsi y el Departamento de Desarrollo Económico. Para aquellas personas que necesiten interpretación al español, Ricardo Ibarra está en el canal de interpretación en español y para llegar ahí pueden ir abajo de la pantalla en la mano derecha donde dice en inglés interpretation, interpretación, y poder imprimir ahí y poder seleccionar Spanish o español. Está allí, dice Spanish, y lo llevaré a ese canal en español. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marcos. And in the interest of time, we are going to go ahead and get started. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time on this Monday afternoon to be with us. My name is Sheba Person-Whitley, and welcome to our virtual corridor walk with Supervisor Corsi. I am joined by our program managers, and we are going to allow them to introduce themselves in just a minute. This week's program is really about celebrating economic development. We're going to be hosting a series of free virtual workshops all week. So if you would like any additional information about today's workshop or any of the other program offerings, please visit our website at sonomaedb.org, and we will make sure that website is listed in the chat. Before I introduce Supervisor Corsi, I will take care of just a few housekeeping items just for some level setting. Everything that we are doing today will be recorded, and that program will be available on our website later. Please refrain from using any harmful language or personal attacks. We certainly want to make sure that we are very respectful and maintain a certain level of professional courtesy as we navigate throughout today's panel discussion. And we will be reserving time at the very end for any questions and for a question and answer session. So please feel free to use that Q&A feature that you see right there on the bottom panel. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce Supervisor Chris Corsi. Supervisor Corsi took office in January 2021, of course, in the midst of our pandemic response and everything the community has been dealing with. So I'm sure easy peasy, no problems there with Supervisor Corsi, but certainly I'm appreciative of his leadership and everything that he has taken on. As part of the work here with the county, he is serving on several very important initiatives, including the Measure O Ad Hoc Committee, the Aging Together Committee, Homeless System of Care Leadership Council, Upstream Investments, the Renewal Enterprise District, JPA, North Bay North Coast Broadband Consortium Oversight Board, Santa Rosa Plain Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Man, that's a mouthful. And of course, before his transition into public service, Supervisor Corsi had over 30 years of experience in journalism, focusing on local government and community stories. So without further ado, I will welcome Supervisor Chris Corsi.
Well, thank you, Sheba. It's a pleasure to be here. And boy, when you list all those things, it makes me tired. It sounds like I'm really busy. I did take office in January. I've been on the job for 4 months now. It's been a wild ride. Local government is always challenging. Sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes it doesn't move fast enough, but I enjoy the challenge of local government, and I'm glad to be doing this job, and I'm glad to be with all of you here today. We're talking about economic development. So right now, I know that for most people in business, we want to know what's happening with the pandemic. When are we going to get back to some kind of normalcy? The good news is that last week our infection metrics dipped low enough to get us into the yellow tier, which is the next least restrictive tier for us to go into in California's metrics. If all goes well, we'll be into that tier, the next tier tomorrow. That means we're just that much closer to, getting back to joining together with friends and family, to getting our kids back to school and back on track. and to getting businesses open and people back to work. I know that that's what we're all looking forward to. So let's make sure that even as things open up, that we continue to respect each other, follow the health guidelines of using your mask when you're around other people you aren't in a family with, making sure that you wash your hands, keep your distance, follow the rules of the pandemic as much as you can, and then we'll be safer going forward. So I just wanted to talk about a few of the things that I've been up to that touch on economic development, as Sheba was mentioning. Let's start with broadband. Holy cow. Was there ever a better way to illustrate the digital divide that exists in this community and in this country than having everybody in every family on computers all of the time? It seems like 24/7. It's a tough situation for so many people who have less than optimal access to the internet, less than broadband access to the internet. So, the North Coast, North Bay Broadband Coalition is a group of counties, Sonoma, Marin, Napa, and Mendocino, who've joined together to, be stronger together to help internet providers identify funding to expand their services to areas that don't have good internet service, and to advocate at the state and local level so we can get better broadband, better internet access throughout our community, not just in the urban cores, but throughout the rural areas, and to everybody who needs it in the community. Sheba also mentioned that I serve on the Renewal Enterprise District. This is, it's all about housing. And right now we're working on putting together a housing trust fund with $10 million of seed money from the city of Santa Rosa, $10 million from the county of Sonoma. This will become a revolving loan fund that will help get those housing projects over the top. Some just get so close to penciling out, but can't get that last little bit. So that's what that loan fund will help do. And we're going to be focusing on infill housing in downtown Santa Rosa to start, but it's not limited to that. And affordable housing that is what we want and what we need in this community. So Sheba again mentioned that I serve on the Measure O ad hoc committee. And Measure O is what you, the voters of Sonoma County, provided to us last year through a quarter-cent sales tax that will provide $25 million a year to support mental health services and homeless services in this community. We've had, because of really poor funding availability from state and federal government and high needs on the mental health side in our county, we've had a continual shortfall in our mental health budgets in Sonoma County. This is going to help a lot. It'll stabilize our mental health funding, and it'll add new programs as well. And these are things that, hope you never need a psychiatric health facility, but this community needs it badly. We need a place where people who are in crisis can go and be safe and also not be sent out of county because we don't have one now. So they're close to their families and their support systems too. We're looking at a new model for emergency response when mental health crises takes place. So instead of always having a police car and police officers respond to someone who's having a mental health crisis, we will have social workers, mental health counselors. You may have heard of the CAHOOTS program that started in Portland, Oregon. It's spreading because people are demanding different ways to deal with these types of crises in the community. We hope to establish that in Sonoma County as well. We're looking at additional mental health programs for students in our schools. And we know that during this pandemic, students have been really, they've been struggling with anxiety, with other mental health issues when they're out of school, but they also struggle with that when they're in. So we hope to have more support for them in their schools when we get this going too. And finally, it just provides a lot of additional services for homeless folks. You know, we've got additional hotel rooms through Project Home Key at the state level. We need to provide services to those people who now have a roof over their head. Just one other thing I wanted to mention is our rental assistance program. You know, through the good efforts of our state and federal governments, Sonoma County has $32 million available right now for landlords and tenants who have been unable to make the rent. The tenants have been unable to make the rent because of the pandemic. The landlords are struggling too because they're not getting the rent on the properties that they own. So this program is available to help pay that rent and to help make landlords closer to whole during this tough economic time. I just wanted to speak for just a minute about what I hope to do in my term as Sonoma County Supervisor. You know, I want to see Sonoma County be a place where everyone can thrive, no matter their age, their ethnicity, their country of origin, no matter who they love or what God they worship, what language they speak, or who they vote for. You know, this is a place where we all should feel welcome and we all should be able to thrive. To achieve that, you know, we need good jobs, we need affordable housing, we need a strong social justice effort in this county, and a functional safety net. So that's the job that I want to do as a county supervisor, and that's how I want to support this community and support you. So again, I want to thank Sheba and her staff for having me today, and I look forward to the rest of this program.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Corsi, and thank you for being here. I know you're very, very busy. You just gave a super high level overview of all the different things that you've been involved in as a county supervisor. So we appreciate you taking the time, and we appreciate your commitment to public service as well as economic development. And so we're going to transition into the next phase of our program, which is really hearing from the program managers that have been assisting businesses all over the county. At EDB, we've tried to do things a little bit differently than we have historically, and being very intentional about inclusivity and diversity, and making sure that we can support and reach those that are hardest to reach, those small businesses that typically need a little bit extra support and maybe historically wouldn't even have heard of EDB or known anything about the free services that we offer. And so we do have 4 program managers who are here with us today. We have Christine Palmer, Lauren Cartwright, Marco Suarez, and Patty Andrews. And I'm going to invite them to participate and, of course, introduce themselves and provide some high-level overviews of what they've been doing in the programmatic areas that they specialize in. But I also wanted to make sure that everyone, you know, was able to put a face with a name, because they have been working diligently, especially since we've been in virtual mode for over a year now, and many people have talked to them on the phone and corresponded with them in email, but hadn't necessarily had an opportunity to see their bright, smiling faces. And through their work collectively, they have assisted over 900 businesses just specifically related to COVID-19. And outside of COVID-19, our department has served over 2,700 small businesses over the past fiscal year, so since June of last year. And that is everything from startup assistance to expansion and relocation assistance, access to capital and financing, business consultation, and workforce assistance. And so we really do pride ourselves on being a small but mighty team at EDB, a full service economic development organization, really focused on, again, assisting small business in particular, making sure that they have access to timely, relevant resources that are going to be critical to not only helping them survive, but as Supervisor Corsi mentioned, helping them to thrive as well. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our business assistance team.
Thank you, Sheba. I'm happy to kick it off. So good afternoon. My name is Christine Palmer. I am a program manager here at the Economic Development Board. As Sheba mentioned, we are part of a 4-person team providing direct business assistance to help grow our local economy. I specialize in 2 key areas. So first off, I help to provide free market research to help launch and expand our businesses. So this information is available in the marketplace, but our research found that businesses do not access it, either due to lack of time or money. So the Sonoma EDB has made this available to any business who is considering opening or an existing business in Sonoma County to give them a competitive edge. So some examples of what we can offer are industry reports, and that helps you to understand your market. What are the trends? Demographics, where is your target market here in the county? Site location, and then probably our most popular service are marketing lists, how to reach out to new customers and clients. And the second area that I help to support is our emerging sectors. So I've done work with our craft beer several years ago, and most recently with our outdoor recreation sector. And we were asked prior to the meeting to come up with some ideas of what we were most proud of in 2020. So I want to share that I think it's the work that our team has done in COVID response. That has meant a lot in the last year. From the very start, we were on the front lines, fielding calls from businesses, making presentations on CARE Act's funding, providing information on reopening timelines, and then most recently, the vaccine rollout. And I'd say in a time of great uncertainty, we became a reliable and a trusted point of contact for the businesses in the area. And as Sheba mentioned, the proof is in the pudding. We were able to assist over 900 businesses. I'm particularly proud of the work we did in helping to reopen our outdoor recreation sector. If you may remember, in late spring, there was no federal or state guidelines about reopening. So the EDB took a leadership role, and we assembled a group of industry stakeholders to develop best management practices to reopen. I took the lead on our outdoor recreation sector, so worked with Wine Country Trekking in Sonoma Valley, Getaway Adventures in Santa Rosa, Safari West, Sonoma Canopy Tours. And together we developed guidelines for reopening. And that became particularly important because when the state did finally release the industry guidelines in May, there was no guidance on outdoor recreation openings, if you can believe it. It was actually overlooked. And it was a critical time. Summer was approaching. Many of the businesses I was speaking to, they were struggling to stay afloat. So thanks to the work that EDB did, our regional parks, and working closely with our health officer, we were able to advocate and allow outdoor recreation to reopen in time for the summer high season. So just in summary, I'm proud of the work we did, and I hope that we can bring our flexible and problem-solving approach to future projects. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Lauren.
Right. I'm the Business Retention and Expansion Program Manager at the Economic Development Board. My primary role is to kind of help businesses retain business and also expand within the county if they're looking at different ways to find financial resources. For example, a lot of our manufacturers actually had more business during the pandemic. So maybe they're looking to improve their packaging line or just to make things more efficient so they can have those different shifts. Trying to help them find those creative funding solutions is one thing that I focused on. We've also received a great deal of startup inquiries. A lot of folks, maybe they got laid off or temporary furloughed, and they thought, well, now is the time for me to launch that business I've been thinking about. We processed a lot of those requests as well. And some folks have definitely brought their dreams to fruition. So that's been very interesting as well. I think one of the biggest accomplishments that I have for, I guess, COVID-19, all of 2020 is we established a website called socolaunch.org. And essentially, as Christine mentioned at the beginning of all of this, we were all trying to scramble to find out where all the information was with regards to reopening or closing, or is my business essential or is it not? Where can I find unemployment information? Can I get unemployment? And what we tried to do, because if you look at the regular small business owner, they're balancing HR, they're trying to figure out accounts payable, and they're trying to figure out like if they can actually open their doors. We pulled all of that information into one website. So we had a link. Okay, well, here's all your financial information, here's your workforce, and just trying to consolidate it to make their lives just a little bit easier. It also proved to be a really great tool for our city partners in the area and just our team kind of keeping it constantly up to date. We could also understand what was going on with the state as well. One thing on SoCo Launch is some folks with their websites, they focus on Google Translate to try and just translate all the information. And we've heard repeatedly that that doesn't quite suffice kind of the needs of the area. So we went ahead and worked with an actual translator to translate all the information in real time. So we had essentially 2 web pages that we were working to update daily, if not hourly, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. So I was very proud of that. And then with that, I will pass it on to Marcos.
Thank you, Lauren. Good afternoon, everyone. Supervisor Corsi, it's an honor to have you here. And, I'm the Business Diversity Program Manager, and what I focus on is working with underserved communities, businesses, whether they're out in, all the way out in Cloverdale, out in the West County, Lower Russian River, from our Latino community, Black community, Asian community, as well as our LGBTQ community. And obviously, as Lauren just mentioned, there was right away, there was the language barrier. And not only that, but also the access, right, to whether it's who's always online. And so we had to get boots on the ground and, working with our partners like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, even Latino Alliance over in Rohnert Park and Cotati. We were able, and other partners at SPDC, Centro Hispano, a lot of different partners throughout the chambers. We were able to really get out there and do outreach and give all the signage that was needed for the businesses early on, all of the protocols that Supervisor Corsi mentioned that were so important, but yet many businesses, if you're not online, you're not getting the information. So we're out there working with a lot of these businesses and our partners to be able to do that. And one of the things that I can say that I'm very proud of in terms of during the pandemic is working with those partners and being able to give access to a lot of these underserved businesses to have access, because early on PPP was such a struggle for so many businesses, and there was a lot of disparity there, but including a local attorney who has been a partner with EDB for a long time, gave his services for free to help businesses of color and underserved businesses be able to help them to get access to PPP. And I'm so happy to report that has been very instrumental in helping just recently quite a few businesses that had issues with their banks, whether one instance was a local business that the business had made a mistake in the bank, and she was able to actually get a substantial amount of money within a few days after working with our local attorney here from the county. And so those are the type of things that really, for me, are very important and very successful, because of that, a lot of these businesses are able to stay afloat, and definitely, working with our own grant, the EDB grant, the county grant, that was really instrumental in terms of doing the boots on the ground, helping people and satellite offices with our partners throughout the county. That really helped. So thank you. And we continue to work with them because we know it's not over, and we continue to do the work, whether it's boots on the ground, making sure that everything's in both English and Spanish. One thing I will mention, like Lauren mentions, is that the Economic Development Board, we have a policy now in place where nothing goes out that is produced by EDB unless it is in English and in Spanish. So we have a great team here. Shout out to everybody. Alina Decker, who you can't see here, but she does such a phenomenal job of getting everything translated with Ricardo Ibarra, who has been the translator and interpreter doing the interpretation and translation. So thank you. And now I'll pass it on over to my colleague, Patricia Andrews.
Thank you, Marcus. As Marcus said, my name is Patty Andrews, and I'm the program manager here at the EDB Business Services. And what I do and how I can help is by working with you to recruit employees and expand your workforce. We know now, coming out of COVID, one of the barriers is being able to find employees and bring them back into the fold, back into the workforce. And so we're here to help you do that. I can also help you by educating you about all the various resources and financial workforce programs that you're potentially eligible for, and how to qualify. And those programs can help you with training not only new employees, but your current employees to upskill them so that you can create opportunities for those coming into the workforce as well. It also can help you learn about taking advantage of various tax incentives that are also available. So for employers who hire folks that have traditionally been disenfranchised, so folks that are justice involved, folks that have been long-term unemployed, as far as coming back into the workforce, hiring folks that are receiving public assistance. Hiring those folks can make you potentially eligible for some tax incentives, and I want to help you be able to access those. Another way the EDB helps business community is by recruiting business support for local grant opportunities. And an example of this is recently Sonoma County was had the opportunity to apply for a grant for English language learners as a second language, as well as helping them increase their English language skills and also be able to develop some occupational skills. And as many of you know, the construction and trades industry is in desperate need of a workforce. And so we were able to reach out to our business community and our contacts and ask them to help us document their support for this kind of program. And as a result, Sonoma County received over $183,000 to help address that workforce issue, as well as help those folks that need to increase their English as a second language come into the workforce. And without our business support, the county would not have been able to be a recipient of that additional workforce funding. So thank you to business for providing that ongoing support. And what am I most proud of? Well, this is a fairly new position to the EDB, but having said that, the accomplishment I'm probably the most proud of right now is that I'm able to utilize the 26 years of history with Human Services and the Sonoma County Workforce Investment Board, and use that to bridge workforce services here at the EDB. And there's so many resources that are available to business that go underutilized. And so I'm very excited that I can share that information with our local business so that you can benefit. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Patty. And at this point, we want to go ahead and open up for any Q&A for the Business Assistance Team or for Supervisor Corsi. We're here to answer any questions you have or talk about any programs that we've run or anything like that. We had one this morning and touched on different industry components in the area. We talked on the small business stabilization grant we ran last year. So feel free to ask away. Supervisor Corsi, I do see a couple that are already queued up, so I can ask those to start if you'd like. One of the questions is around how quickly will the number of beds in existing mental health and addiction treatment facilities be increased for residents and those living on our streets? So we're looking for the number of bed increasing, how quickly that will happen.
Well, right now we're talking with the city of Santa Rosa about expanding some shelter options. And that might be safe parking. It might be an indoor, outdoor shelter type of situation where people can get inside or have a safe parking place with services provided at the same location. How soon that happens, I think one of the first things I said is that government is never fast enough, so it won't happen soon enough, but we hope to get it done this summer. This past winter, we expanded beds for homeless folks, and particularly homeless folks who are vulnerable to COVID through Project Room Key. You may recall that the county bought 2 hotels, one in the city of Santa Rosa and one in the city of Sebastopol. We're turning those into single room occupancy, basically small apartments for homeless folks, providing wraparound supportive services, and not to make these a permanent landing spot for people who are homeless, but a transition into getting homes of their own. So that was a really important addition to the number of beds that we have, more than 100 beds between those 2 hotels. Also, because of COVID and some of the funds that we were able to leverage from state and federal government during COVID, we have folks sheltered and have had them for months at the Astro Motel in Santa Rosa. and the Dry Creek Inn in Healdsburg. So, it's a constant need. We don't have enough. It won't happen soon enough, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Another question here, Supervisor Corsi, is your Measure O committee open to input on some programs that could use some of the funding generated that the public was told? Let's see, I'm sorry here. Open to input on some of the programs that could use some of the funding generated and how the public was told it could be used for. So I guess they're looking if they can help provide input on the Measure O committee programs you're looking to establish.
I am always open to good ideas. Measure O was a ballot measure. It has an expenditure plan. It has to be spent within certain parameters, but they're not so specific that that good ideas wouldn't be welcome. And if you'd like to send them my way, it's chris.corsi@sonoma-county.org.
Before I jump to Dave's question, we've got another one here. Can we hope for a fully utilized homeless management information system with full transparency around data, costs, goals, and results on the web pages on the web pages for the homeless programs for the county? So I guess kind of looking for those transparency reports and just making a more digital version.
Yeah, this sounds like someone who's very much in the weeds on HMIS and probably knows more about it than I do. So I don't know what the privacy restrictions are on that information. And if you'd like to send an email to me, I'll get answers for you on that.
And here's another question kind of related to housing. With inclusivity in mind, will local Indian rancherias have an opportunity to access the local housing trust fund so they can provide affordable housing for low-income natives?
The housing trust fund that I mentioned earlier is a function of the Renewal Enterprise District, which right now is the priority development areas identified by Metropolitan Transportation Commission in Santa Rosa and nearby. But the red can be expanded to other jurisdictions. I know we can expand to other cities. I'm not sure if we can expand to Indian lands. That's a really interesting question. And again, send me an email. I'll talk to the people who know. You may be getting the idea that, I'm not an expert. I know a little bit about all 25 departments or so that the county operates, and all of them have really smart people. I rely on staff to help me out. So send me the inquiries and we'll track down that information for you.
I don't see any other questions pending as of right now. So I guess I can have a question that I'd like to ask you that came up in our District 4 corridor walk this morning. We were talking about the different American Rescue Act funding that's going to be coming to the way of the county in the coming months or the next year, whatever it is. And Supervisor Gore had kind of suggested different ways he'd like to see that allocated. Do you have any initial thoughts around like small business grants or anything like that, or for those funds, how they could be allocated to the county?
That's about $97 million that will come in what I understand 2 tranches, one this summer, actually sometime soon, hopefully, and the other next year. What I hope to see us do as the Board of Supervisors and with the community is have that kind of community conversation to talk about what the priorities should be. One of the issues that I've had with the way that the PG&E money has been spent. Well, one, I didn't get a chance to have a lot of say in it because so much of it was spent last year, but it got spent in chunks on important issues. Put money into roads that had been damaged during the fires, put money into vegetation management. But there was never a real comprehensive conversation about what the needs are for the community. What are the priorities going to be? Now we're being asked in the next couple of weeks to spend some more of it on addressing climate change and creating a new department essentially within the county. Another hugely important issue, but it keeps getting smaller and smaller. We'll be down to about 10 or $15 million out of 150 million to start with, without exactly establishing priorities. So I want to do that work, and hopefully with the community to establish the priorities for that $97 million of American Rescue Plan money.
I guess that kind of leads me to another. While I'm waiting for more questions to float in, there's another thought that I had too. Is I believe you were mayor during the 2017 fires. I'd be curious, based on, we had discussions earlier today about recovery and resiliency, based on what you experienced in 2017 versus the different funding that's available and how it can support the business community. Do you think of any different initiatives or ways that folks might need help? I mean, aside from generators and having like a continuity of operations plan, but anything you experienced that we could try to execute for folks?
Yes, as you say, I was mayor of Santa Rosa then, and it was all new to us at that point. We'd never experienced a disaster quite like 2017. Since then, we've been lucky enough to experience several more. They seem to be a regular occurrence now. And the pandemic is its own disaster, and it's one that has hit everyone hard. So I think we've learned lessons. We've got to continue learning lessons as we go. Hopefully, we'll even get a year or so when we don't have any disasters and be able to sit back and look at, where are the gaps? And I know that you all at EDB, you see those gaps every day when people pick up the phone and call you and ask for help. And, as I said before about relying on staff for information, I've got to rely on you all who have your eyes on the community, and the community comes to you with their needs. Let us know. So the community needs to let us know. Staff needs to let us know. We need to respond, not dictate what the needs are. And that goes back to my statement about the American Rescue Plan money. It's not what I think it should be going to. I want to hear what the community wants it to go to.
Great answer. I'm just writing more questions on mine. Does anyone else I know we have about 15 folks attending today, or any program managers, any questions or ideas, any thoughts around this today?
Well, one thing,
Go
ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I have a question for EDB staff. What are the things that you hear most from the business community? What is the biggest need out there? The most frequent request that you get?
I can give a high level overview. And then of course, if any of the program managers want to give any specific feedback on what they're hearing, it's pretty well-established trends. I will describe it that way. Supervisor Corsi, it's access to capital in something other than debt. So people, especially now because of the pandemic and all of the impacts that they're facing and the enormity of those, financial impacts related to COVID-19, shelter-in-place orders, and all those different things, access to capital, particularly grants, something like that. We hear that repeatedly. We hear repeatedly about government getting out of the way. So how can we, as a jurisdiction, county government, make it easier for people to get back to business after sheltering in place and dealing with restrictions and dealing with the blueprint for reopening and all the different things that come out of the governor's office and down from CDPH and others? How can our regulatory environment here at the local level be one that is conducive to help business get back to what they need to do and not create an overly burdensome regulatory environment, if you will. And that includes things like, fees and permits and what is going to be required for them to reopen. People are looking for a lifeline. And so sometimes, quite frankly, they just want someone to listen to them. They want to feel like government is being responsive and is attuned to what is happening in the community, and that we're not, so disconnected that we have absolutely no idea the pain and the frustration and the anger and the fear, quite frankly, that they are facing in these unprecedented times. Some have lost just about everything, and they want to know that people care, that people are empathetic, and that we're going to do everything we can to provide them the assistance that we can within our means. And so those are, a couple of quick things, and I open it up to any of the program managers at all, but those are certainly the things that I've heard repeatedly. And in addition to that, this is not going to surprise you, Supervisor Corsi, let us reopen, right? That's the other thing that we've heard over and over and over. And some of that we know is not within local control. I'm sure you have been, saying that repeatedly, that we are sensitive, but we also have to make sure that we are adhering to the reopening strategies that have been identified by the state. But that is something that we hear repeatedly. You're killing my business, let me open, you don't care about me. And we want to do what we can, again, to be empathetic, but also make sure that we can actually share the information that is available about what people can and can't do.
Right. Well, I completely get it that when people say they want government to get out of the way, it's basically let us open our businesses, let us open our schools, let us, get back to our birthday parties and weddings and all of that stuff. It's not in our control at the local level, but it's also, it's also being done for a good reason, the collective health of the community. And I know it's hard to see that sometimes, because people not getting sick it's hard to prove a negative there. But we do see what happens in other places. We see what's happening in India right now. We've seen what's happened in other states at various times. We don't want to go back to that. So I'm glad that we're getting closer to being open, that we've gone, but I'm also glad that we've gone slowly, because I think that more people are alive because of that. To your point, Sheba, about just wanting someone to listen, government can seem so impersonal, and what we're going through now is very, very personal to every person, every family, every business that's going through it. So I appreciate you recognizing that. And, I'm guessing that your staff spends a lot of time on the phone or on Zoom with individuals who need to vent and need somebody to understand what they're going through, and to, take the time to help find them some good information, to help find them a solution sometimes, to maybe help them with an application to a small business loan, to a grant from the state funds that have been available. Has that grant fund run out? Sorry, my lights are going off here. Is there still money available from the state for small business?
I will let Marcos and Christine tackle that one. I know they've been doing a tremendous amount around technical assistance, around helping people access the grant program, as well as even setting up these temporary local assistance centers to make sure people understood the process. I believe we were in round 6. I'm looking for confirmation. I see some head nods. So we were in round 6 of the approval process. So Marcos or Christine, if you want to provide any update of what what you've seen and heard come out of the state with respect to round 6 or any of the other rounds of funding.
Yes, the deadline is tomorrow for round 6, tomorrow, May 4th. And it looks like this would be the final round, right, Christine? That's what I've heard about for the state of California.
I believe so.
Yes, and however, one of the good things is that I'm hearing from more and more businesses, underserved businesses, that are actually getting the California grant, because early on the numbers were very small. I think round 1 was 252 total businesses in all of Sonoma County that had received this grant. So I'm already hearing from other businesses throughout the county, including obviously in District 3, many underserved businesses in the area from Runner Park, Santa Rosa, that have been able to access that grant. I was mentioning also that there was some businesses that had not applied because they were hesitant and thinking that that the government was gonna take that money back. I mean, there's always that hesitancy, especially when, historically, a lot of our businesses have experienced those types of situations in the past. But it's still going on right now. The restaurant revitalization program has just started as of today, and we've been sharing that information. And so everybody's really right now today they're applying for that one. PPP is still available until March 31st. It's still going to be open until March 31st. So we're still encouraging businesses to access that funding. And I'll let Christine fill in or mention other things about the programs.
Yeah, so Supervisor Corsi, you're asking for just kind of feedback on some themes that we are seeing. One that I noticed in the last probably 6 to 8 months was really an uptick in requests for information about micro food, kind of small scale food manufacturing. And the issue was there seems to be a gap that exists between sort of the cottage food, which is really limited selection of goods that you can cook in your home kitchen, and going to a large scale, commercial kitchen. And there seems to be kind of a sweet spot people are looking for, with the ability to kind of dip their toe in with an idea, a concept of a tamale business or a specialty ice cream business. And I know that there is a state law that was passed. I think it's AB 626, which does allow for small food manufacturing. It is an opt-in program, so that would be something I think it's going to be going before your board sometime this fall to discuss. But that's definitely a theme that we're seeing a real interest in being able to do that small scale food manufacturing.
Yeah, I had heard some discussion about that, and I hope it gets just before fall. I want to take a look at our calendar and, make sure that, I think that the board would really be interested in getting that done, and sooner is better.
One last thing I'll mention, Supervisor Corsi, is that there are still some businesses, even though we've had some successes, there have been businesses out there that have fallen through the cracks in terms of not being able to access any funding, whether it was PPP or the state of California grant or our grant. I mean, they're out there, right? Or some of them that maybe got PPP funding, but only got $7,000, $5,000. I mean, it's very small amounts. So in terms of when I think about if there were any funding or any other opportunities in the future, and I know the Board of Supervisors is looking at those gaps, right? Because there are all these programs that are available, and looking at maybe those businesses that have not had access to any of that funding, right? Be able to at least get some more funding or some funding, because we are still hearing some of these businesses. And like it was mentioned, definitely we hear it from many of them that now are looking at PSPS coming. They're very fearful about the droughts. Is there going to be a fire? And all these things that makes them feel like, oh my God, like I just can't take it anymore. As it was, that's where they were last year, where many of them were just like, you know what, this is the last straw for me, because the fires, the floods, another fire, COVID. And but anyway, so those are the kind of some of the sentiments that we are hearing when we answer those calls and we talk to these businesses. So there are businesses still out there. And I think, yes, definitely being able to assess those businesses that are still really hurting out there. There are some out there that are still there in our county.
Well, I really appreciate that you all are there to help some of these small business folks navigate the bureaucracy. I mean, not every business has a lawyer or a CPA or even a bookkeeper sometime on staff that can do this kind of work. They need help. They need just a little bit of navigation, as I said, and it's great that you're able to do that.
I think that kind of ties in, like you mentioned earlier, Supervisor Corsi, about just people calling, wanting to vent. I think in some instances you have someone who calls, I think, every single program manager, and even though they might talk to all of us, they're just like, I'm just so glad there's someone there to answer the phone, to help me answer this question. And I think our efforts to try and make state guidelines transparent, like whether it's opening a PDF and hitting Control F to like find a keyword in there to help answer their question, people are really grateful just for that kind of assistance, and just having someone to be able to talk to. I think overall COVID definitely made the county as an entire agency really have to pivot, right? Because we're so used to working in office from our desktops, so being able trying to work from home, trying to answer calls. I think I'll be curious in the next couple of years how that just continues to shift or change or create accessibility for folks, because maybe they can't drive, all the way from Bodega Bay to County Center to file a certain piece of paperwork, and they can't drive from a different area. So I think that accessibility of information and just having a team there will really help people, and people seem pretty receptive to that as well. So I did see a question in the chat that I wanted to answer before I forgot. It was asking about the California grants and if there's anything available for 501c6 nonprofits. That is correct. I believe that they are accepting applications in round 6 for those, Mr. Pierce, if you wanted to apply. Feel free to reach out to anyone on our team. We have the emails in the chat. We can answer that for more information if you'd like as well.
Is round 6 the one with the deadline tomorrow?
Yes. So I was just
You're gonna have to hop on that
say, I need you to email us, call us today, and we will get you connected with someone, because we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to get that application in before the deadline. And I think I saw Patty unmuted. Patty, did you have a question?
I was just going to mention from the workforce side, one of the concerns that I'm hearing from employers is being able to find a workforce. And so as excited as they are that we're hitting the yellow tier, that we are expanding, there are also, some of them are fearful that they won't be able to fully expand because they don't have the workforce in order to be able to serve that expanded client base. And from the job seeker side, those that, there's many reasons why some of them aren't coming back into the workforce. But as we all know, Sonoma County is very large geographically, and transportation is definitely an issue from that side. So like bringing folks from the Springs into central Santa Rosa, that's difficult to do because there's not a good solution to their transportation issue as far as bus. So those are the concerns I'm hearing from the workforce side, from business.
Patty, I serve on the Aging Together board or committee in human services, and we've been talking about age-friendly community issues, and the state has something called the Master Plan for Aging or something like that. One of those big bureaucratic names. But we've been talking about putting together a job fair for older folks, not necessarily senior citizens, but people over 45 or 50. And there are a lot of people who would love to have a chance to still be in the workforce, who have trouble sometimes. And maybe there's some synergy there, and I'll be in touch with you about that.
They are a great fit for hospitality and tourism. They really are. There's that niche matches very well. So yes, I would look forward to that.
Great.
And then we've got some feedback in the chat that's saying that that is something definitely worth considering, that Sonoma County Transit does not dovetail well with COSR Transit, City of Santa Rosa. So finding a way to tie those two together.
There actually is. And the Sonoma County Transportation Authority is leading discussions with Santa Rosa City Bus and Sonoma County Transit to talk about, if not a complete merger, better coordination, more seamless connections. If you live in Santa Rosa, it's not uncommon to see a county bus and a city bus driving 1-2 north or south on Mendocino Avenue. And they're going to different destinations, but they're following the same route for a lot of them. And so it's absolutely a great question. And yes, it is being looked at.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So I'm just scanning. I don't see a couple of comments, but no other questions. Wanted to double check. Oh, so someone is asking, I'm not taking over your role here as the moderator for Q&A, Lauren, but someone is asking about in-house meetings for city and county workers. And so I will let Supervisor Corsi provide some feedback on that, but I can tell you that what I've been hearing as an individual department is that the county administrator is working with the HR risk department as well as others to reopen, officially reopen County Center. Right now, all the county departments are operating at least 50% capacity. As of today, all of the lobbies are actually open. So even EDB office is open, but we ask that people do call and schedule an appointment because we have what we call a microsite. It is very, very tiny, and we can't really fit the public in there without staggering appointments. And I do know that other county departments are open to the public in various capacities, but the instruction and direction that we have been given is to make sure we're open at least 50%. We're actually open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. by appointment. And I will let Supervisor Corsi provide any feedback that he might have about the board chambers, because we have been hearing from many of the community who would want to see the board chambers reopen.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that the board wants to see the chambers reopened as well, get back to meetings in person. I had an event on Saturday night. Congressman Mike Thompson had a fundraiser down in Runner Park, and it was a drive-in movie fundraiser. And so people came in, they stayed in their cars, and he asked me to introduce him. And I was speaking to a live audience for the first time since last March 3rd, 2020, which was the day that I got elected to this job. And standing in the back of a pickup truck, looking out at a crowd was weird. I'm definitely out of practice for that. But what's even weirder is when that crowd is behind the windshields of their cars and you can't see their faces, can't get any reaction. It was hard. So I'm looking forward to getting back to public meetings that are actually in person. The board is going to be looking. We have a meeting with our risk management team, with security and some other folks in early June is scheduled, and we'll have meetings in the board chamber to some degree. How much we can, how much of an audience we can have in there. It'll probably be a hybrid meeting where some, you can attend it on Zoom or you can attend it in person, just depending on the amount of capacity that we open up. But I'm hoping that we're going to see that happen this summer. And meanwhile, as Sheba said, all offices are open at least 20% or 50% of the week, 20 hours a week right now. I'm here in my office at the county center. Today, we had more people in the office than I've seen since I started coming in January. In fact, there was a line for the 2 bathrooms at one point this morning. So you know that things are improving when the bathrooms aren't vacant all the time.
I don't see any other questions, so I think we're gonna wrap it up unless there's anything else. Amos, looks like we have a couple of questions or notes about the transit, so we'll make sure that Supervisor Corsi gets those as well. And thank you, Tamara. We will work on that 40 and up job fair.
Fantastic. Well, I would like to thank all of our participants. Really great Q&A session. Thank you so much, Supervisor Chris Corsi, for taking time of your busy schedule to be with us and celebrate Economic Development Week. And to any of our participants, please follow up and email. We are here. We're available. For the gentleman who asked about that California Business Grant Program, please reach out to us today. We want to make sure that we can provide you any sort of technical assistance you might need before we reach that deadline tomorrow. So again, thank you all so much for everything that you're doing to help support our business community. And we really appreciate each and every one of you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, Sheba, and thanks for your work and all your staff as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.